Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
And away we go. That's a new thing I'm working on. When you always love that, let's just leave questions.
I don't
walk right into that.
There are some. I'm not saying this is a good movie.
Oh, what?
That is finished Willem Dafoe. He looks just like Willem Dafoe.
I thought he looked very familiar.
Don't throw out a fact.
You are correct.
Butler, you should do some facts sometimes. Do some facts sometimes, Butler. Don't take my
I'm pretty confident your brother doesn't listen to the Forgotten Cinema podcast, but if he does, boo. Hey, I'm Mike Field.
And I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it's because of a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy our podcast, please feel free to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. Hey, Mike.
You did it. I'm proud of you. It only took you 3 times.
Simply the best. Today we are doing Happy New Year, everybody. I should say Happy New Year. Hopefully, is it New Year's Day that's coming out? Or New Year's Eve?
New Year's Eve, I believe. Hold on, I can check.
No, New Year's Day, because we did the last episode.
You're
for
right.
Christmas.
This is New Year's Day. We're in a new year. Welcome to 2020.
Happy New Year. Hopefully, you are not hungover. You had a responsible New Year's Eve. I probably worked.
Me too.
Because it's double time. So
right.
Excellent. So in honor of New Year's Day, we are going to do a movie that takes place around a New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
That's right.
And that is the movie Strange Days, starring Ralph Fiennes and Angela Basset, directed by Kathryn Bigelow, written by James Cameron.
That's right.
So let me go into that. Like I said, directed by Kathryn Bigelow. This is the second Kathryn Bigelow movie we are doing because the last one we did was what, Mike?
Near Dark.
There you go. She's also responsible for The Hurt Locker, K-19, The Widowmaker, tons of other ones. She actually won the Academy Award for directing of Hurt Locker.
I didn't know she did K-19.
I believe she did K-19, The Widowmaker.
That's cool.
Am I wrong? Crap.
Maybe.
She did that. If I'm wrong, whatever. As I said, written by James Cameron. He actually came up with the story and the scriptment, as they call it, the script/treatment he wrote. But then Jay Cox came on and wrote the rest of the movie. I think he did most of the dialogue.
That's like my dream, just to do the treatment. I love writing treatments way more than writing scripts.
My dream would be to do uncredited rewrites and just get paid to not put my name on stuff. That's where the money is. Ooh. John Sayles does that. And I want that.
You can also be the pitch man who just pitches story ideas.
I can't pitch. I suck at pitching. I cannot pitch for the life of me. I hate it. I hate sitting there trying to tell people about my movie. I can't stand it. I know. You know what? That's not an unknown or unusual
thing.
Quality in a writer. Some people can't do it
because stories are really personal. And now you're trying to sell your story. Hope they like it.
And it's really and I get like I know we're going on.
That's fine.
But like I get. When people say like, well, you have to be able to pitch your stuff. And like in this day and age, like you do need to self-promote yourself, but it still doesn't change the fact that human nature, like you say, personal stories.
It's tough.
Correct. Yeah.
Because it's something you're really passionate about and you're telling it passionately.
Right.
And hoping other people find it.
So then I think maybe the goal is to have a posse. So I will hire a pitch man to get 5%. How about 5% of the sale to just pitch the movie? And then maybe I'll have another person who writes the treatment for the movie and the synopsis, and they can get another 5%. Done and done.
You look at that. You did it.
Done and done. So anyone out there's looking to be a pitch man or a pitch woman for me for anything that I've done to go out there and help sell the script, I will give you 5% of the deal that we get.
This constitutes a verbal contract.
Does it really?
I think
we will need to sign something. Let's get back to the movie. So, like I said, written by James Cameron, who did the script. Oh, I think we're going down the same road again.
Yep.
He is responsible for, I don't know if you heard of The Abyss, Mike, or Terminator, T2. He did that one.
Listen,
Aliens.
James Cameron does a lot of really good stuff. And on our episode for Burn After Reading, when I mentioned that if James Cameron put something out, you guys kind of shit on me. So
did I really?
Yeah. You guys were like, no, I'm not watching anything. James, like,
I never said that.
James Cameron's only made like 8 films and they're all fantastic. Yeah. You might like.
He's not the strongest writer. He's a great director, but he's not the strongest writer.
Yeah, all his movies are kind of classics, though.
Really, he won the Academy Award for Titanic, which was nominated for every single category that year.
That's true.
He's not one for writing, so there we go. Jay Cox, actually, his other credits were The Age of Innocence, Gangs of New York, and the movie Silence. Did you see it? Have you seen any of those, Mr. Butler?
I saw all but Silence, but I wanted to see Silence, but we never got Silence in our theater, which I was surprised.
Did not. He was nominated for Gangs and Age of Innocence, I believe, for an Academy Award. I got all these Academy Award facts now. Music by Graham Ravel.
That's how I've always pronounced it.
Yeah. He has a lot of people have done a slew of things, but
He's
I
done a ton.
try to put stuff in there that people know, like Riddick, The Crow, No Escape. Have you ever seen No Escape with Ray Liotta when it's the island of prisoners and they dump him on there?
I think I saw like parts of it on cable, but I can't remember.
That actually might be good for us because I remember liking that movie.
Okay.
He also did From Dusk Till Dawn. Not Ray Liotta, but Graham Ravel. Cinematography by Matthew Leonetti. He did Star Trek First Contact, Mike.
And Insurrection. I was going to say, you can't help but do a Star Trek
I
thing this time.
would ignore the Insurrection one, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
Butterfly Effect, the Rob Zombie Halloween.
It's okay.
I'm just giving you stuff that
Okay.
he's done. Producers, James Cameron produces, and Steve Charles Jaffe, who actually produced Near Dark, but also Star Trek 6, Undiscovered Country. There's
look at
another one
you.
for you, nerd. I say that with love. So as I said before, it stars Ralph Fiennes. He plays Lenny Nero, who is the lead character in this movie. We'll get to him as well. You may know Ralph Fiennes from such movies as The Grand Budapest Hotel, Schindler's List, which he was nominated for. I can't believe he didn't win. The English Patient, which he was also nominated for an Oscar, and the upcoming The King's Man, which I am really excited to see.
He's also M in James Bond.
He is, but
and
we're okay.
He Who Shall Not Be Named. I'm surprised you didn't add that.
Voldemort, because
I said He Who Shall Not.
because I love Schindler's List. I love him in Schindler's List, so that's why he's really good in that movie.
He's really good in pretty much it. He's a fantastic actor.
He is. Yes, agreed. Angela Basset as Lord. Well, she's known as Mace, but her first name is Lornetta or Lornette. Mace Mason. You may know Angela Basset from Mike. Well job. Nice job. How Stella Got Her Groove Back. She was nominated for an Oscar for What's Love Got to Do with It.
I like that movie.
Yeah. And she was more recently, she was in Black Panther.
I've actually never seen How Stella Got Her Groove Back.
Well, then you don't know how she got her groove
I
back.
don't know. I think it was by dating a guy in Jamaica.
It was with Tay Diggs.
Okay, yeah. That's
Juliette Lewis plays Faith. Had you ever seen Natural Born Killers? Did you ever see the extended Natural Born Killers cut where they had Tommy Lee Jones' head on a stake?
No. I watched it on Cinemax or HBO.
You should watch the extended because it is woo. It's good, but it is woo. Natural Born Killers it's a good movie, but it is
violent.
It's a hard watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was nominated for Cape Fear. I should just ask you, what do you think they were nominated for? Tom Sizemore as Max Peltier, but we're going to just call him Max because that's what he's known as here. Saving Private Ryan, True Romance, Pearl Harbor. He was also in Natural Born Killers. Michael Wincott plays Philo. You would know him from The Crow. He plays one of the bad guys in The Crow that kills the Crow.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I was like, he's in a gothic movie, and I couldn't remember what he was from.
He's also in Alien Resurrection. He plays the captain of the ship when they go on to. Dan Hedaya brings the scavengers or whatever.
He's the one with like the hunt.
He's the captain.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Yes, he's the captain.
He probably is. I don't remember much of the crew in that.
Vincent D'Onofrio is Burton Steckler. He is partnered with William Finkner, who plays Dwayne Engelman. They are the two cops in this movie that are responsible for the, I guess, controversy or the crisis in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
D'Onofrio, you may know him from Full Metal Jacket, Men in Black. He's also plays Kingpin in the Daredevil Netflix show. He's also in Law & Order Criminal Intent.
I think that's where most people know him from.
I'm a big D'Onofrio fan.
How many Emmys was he nominated for that?
A lot.
That's what I thought.
But he's fantastic. And
he's great in everything.
I don't know if I've said this already. I think I might have. But if you ever are on YouTube and he did a short film where he directed, but he played Orson Welles. And it's supposed to be Orson Welles before, I can't remember the name of the movie that he's shooting, but it's in Europe. And he's like, it's really good.
I can absolutely see him. I think you've mentioned to me before, maybe not on the cast,
yeah.
But I can absolutely see him playing an Orson Welles.
Yes. Finkner, you might know him from Armageddon, Lone Ranger, Dark Knight, Blades of Glory. Lone Ranger is going to be in our season 4 season. So
that's true.
I'm excited about that. I really like that movie. Glenn Plummer plays Jericho 1. He's the guy that Keanu Reeves steals the car from in Speed. He's also in Saw 2, Showgirls, the more recently Gifted with Chris Evans. And then I have a couple other people. Richard Edson plays Tick. He is from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's the one that's in the he's the attendant. He's the parking attendant.
Yes.
That steals the car. He's also more recently from 3 from Hell.
My girlfriend was very excited when she saw him. She's like, "That's the guy from Ferris Bueller." I was like, He is in almost everything in the 90s.
True.
That guy is a great character actor.
I didn't realize Nicky Katt was in this movie. He plays one of the gang, Philo's gang that goes after the guy with the shaved head.
Oh, that's that guy?
Yeah, that's Nicky Katt. And for some reason, we're doing a Joseph Summer back-to-back. He plays Palmer Strickland, the chief of police. He was in The Family Man, the one that we did last week. I don't know why we're doing a Joseph Summer back-to-back, but yeah. So those are the people that are in it. Strange Days is 145 minutes, rated R. Production budget of $42 million. Was released on October 13th, 1995. Its opening weekend, it came in $3.6 million. Domestic 8, worldwide 8. It did not get released internationally. I think you kind of can see why maybe it was forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
It was released on the same weekend as the movie Jade, starring David Caruso, and The Scarlet Letter. I believe that's the one with Demi Moore, which everyone in high school had to see it when it came out. The week before, the 6th of October, you had Assassins, the Antonio Banderas movie. Dead Presidents. What's up?
And Sylvester Stallone.
Dead
I remember
Presidents.
liking that, but I don't think it's good. I feel like I watched it when I was little, and I was like, oh, that's cool, but it probably wasn't.
You're correct. Dead Presidents and How to Make an American Quilt. That was with Winona Ryder. The week before that, so 2 weeks from the 13th, which was September 29th, you had Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, Devil in a Blue Dress, which is also going to be in our season 4. The Big Green and Still Big, Still Little. And then the week after Strange Days came out, so the 13th, so the 20th I'm talking about of October, you had Get Shorty, Now and Then, and Mallrats, which Get Shorty was fantastic, and probably everybody went to go see that anyways. What's up?
Did you also have that 2 different release dates on there?
Well, I do. I mean, I was going to save that for later, but
Okay.
I'll break it to. I'll go now. It opened in one theater on the 6th of October, and it made $31,000.
Okay.
Then this next week, the 13th, it opened wide. It finished 8th behind like 7 in its like 18th week. Assassins, Dead Presidents to Die For. So it didn't do well in its opening weekend. But before we get into all that other stuff, Mike's going to break down what actually Strange Days is about.
Oh, boy.
Everyone's favorite time.
Strange Days is a neo-noir, sci-fi, drama, crime mystery. I would say is the best way to introduce it. The movie takes place a couple of days, December 30th, 1999.
It takes place over 2 days.
Yeah, right before New Year's Eve. In Los Angeles, which is in 1999, Los Angeles is basically a militarized war zone.
It's a hellhole.
It's a racial war zone where there's a lot of hatred between African Americans and the police officers, and New Year's Eve is coming, and looks like they've got military presence and all that. It's not a great place. Our protagonist, Lenny Nero, who we find out is an ex-narco cop, now deals in experiences, which are recorded on these things called squids, which essentially are these devices you put on your head and record all of your memories, your sensations, your feelings, your sight, your emotions, everything. You can record these emotions, put them on a tape, give them to someone else with a squid, and they can watch everything back and experience everything exactly how it was experienced. And he'll deal with, it seems like primarily it's pornography, but it's also, robbing, like the beginning of the thing is like robbing like a restaurant, action stuff and exciting stuff and skiing. And he tries to sell all these different experiences. The only thing Lenny won't deal with is blackjack, which is essentially a snuff film. For obvious reasons.
What are they? Go ahead.
So Lenny's a smooth talker. He's this, I guess, self-proclaimed like nice guy and friend to everybody. So he's got a lot of friends, especially in like the shady corners of the city, including Iris, who is a prostitute. So one day while Lenny's trying to make a sale, Lenny comes into contact with Iris, who's very upset and wants to talk to Lenny, saying that she has something she needs him to see. Unfortunately, she disappears as soon as the cops arrive. Lenny's car is repoed by a tow truck driver because he hasn't made his payments, and Lenny is forced to kind of be driven around the city by his friend Mace, Angela Bassett's character, who is a private security expert and limo driver. Lenny wants to go meet Faith at this club. Faith is his ex-girlfriend who he's very obsessed with and continually watches on these old squid tapes on their old relationship together, even though Faith wants nothing to do with Lenny anymore. She's now dating a record mogul, Philo, played by Michael Wincott, who's this really possessive, very paranoid, creepy kind of guy. Nice. Faith wants nothing to do with him, kicks Lenny out. Lenny just wants to know why. Obviously Lenny wants to see Faith, but he wants to know why Iris might have wanted to see him, why she was so upset. He doesn't get any information from her, but at the club he is given a tape by a buddy of his that was left for him. In this tape, when Lenny watches it, is a recording of Iris's death left by what we can only assume is the killer. How the killer kills people is he puts a squid on top of the victim's head and his own head and kind of outputs so that the person watching this squid can experience what the murderer feels and the victim feels at the same time. So that's how Lenny kind of knows the guy really gets off on it. Lenny obviously is shaken and upset, tries to go to the hotel where Iris was murdered. And this sets him on a mystery to solve the mystery of what happened. Obviously, he can't go to the police because either he could be the murderer or it would kill his cred with his customers and no one would want to do business with him. Either way, Lenny would be ruined. So he goes to try to solve the murder himself along with Mace and his private eye buddy, Max. Different twists and turns happen, and we come to find out that it all kind of stems from Iris, who recorded a murder of a very influential rapper who had been organizing the streets kind of against the police and the establishment. Jericho 1 was the rapper's name. And in that tape, he finds out that Jericho 1 was murdered after police pulled him over and just murdered him for being the guy who's kind of speaking out against the police. Iris ran away. She was able to get the tape out, and now it's up to Lenny and Mace to solve the murder of Iris while also figuring out what they're going to do with the murder tape of Jericho 1 when the police will probably just sit on it. Or if they release it, it would spark an outrage in the city and cause untold levels of violence and protest. So that's basically what the movie is about, is kind of solving these two mysteries that are intertwined and related. And it gives off a very noir kind of vibe, and there's lots of twists and turns and whodunits, which is really cool. And it's got a very adult murder mystery vibe to it.
Yeah, you had not seen this before?
No.
I had. One of the things that I remember liking about it, or when I think back to it, was the murder mystery stuff, was the mystery. But watching it again, the mystery isn't complex. It's not really like something like LA Confidential where you really are trying to figure it out. And there really is an investigation. In this movie, a lot of his, by his I mean Lenny Nero, a lot of Lenny's motivation is attached to his almost pathetic fascination with his ex-girlfriend, Faith, who's Juliette Lewis.
Yes.
And murder mystery stuff doesn't kick in until maybe the last 45 minutes of the movie. That was the one thing I had noticed because I've seen this movie more than once.
Okay.
But this watch, I've totally forgotten D'Onofrio was in this. I totally forgot. I knew this stuff happened to Jericho 1.
But you didn't know who was doing it, right?
I did. I forgot who was in it. I forgot who the actors were. But I also didn't realize that the kind of like whodunit aspect of the movie really didn't kick into high gear until the last part of the movie. It's a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
So a lot of the movie, they spent a lot of time on Nero's or Lenny's, like, you know, like I said, pathetic fascination.
His obsession. Yeah.
Yes. His obsession with his ex-girlfriend.
Almost an addiction.
Yeah. Well, that's the idea. You get addicted to jacking in.
Right.
Which is, you find out that also that's Philo's issue. Like, he is addicted to jacking in, where he has everybody hooked up to a squid deck so he can see what they're doing, and he becomes paranoid. I mean, his line that he says there, paranoia is just reality on a finer scale.
Yes.
I'm like, what?
So he's further along than Lenny, clearly, in his addiction.
Lenny has a kind of set of morals that he kind of lives by. You talk about how he doesn't want blackjack.
Probably because this probably has something stemming from his being an ex-cop.
Right. But at the end of the day, he's still addicted. He's not addicted to jacking in. He's obsessed.
He's addicted to the thought of Faith. The feeling he had when he was with her.
And you get yes, she is a singer. She wants to be a star. And Philo is a manager or somebody who's supposed to be.
Philo's a rich record executive who's just kind of, she's still just playing clubs and stuff, but she's hoping eventually she'll be more than just his, toy, I guess, or, arm piece, and just kind of arm candy. That's the word.
And Lenny, you hear like Lenny introduced them, and then Philo steals her from him, but she's not a likable character either. And like, he is still trying to save her throughout this entire thing. and she's not likable at all.
I kind of like
all.
that.
No, I get that.
Yeah, it's because that's a little bit of a twist, and I didn't really think about it much until toward the end, but it really is this. It's got a lot of 1930s kind of detective feel to it, especially at the end. Like, she's the femme fatale. Like, she's even singing at the club, just like the femme fatales do and stuff like that. But unlike most of them, which, you're still supposed to think like, oh, maybe there's a chance they're nice. Mm-hmm. She really, true story. Like, if they're a murderer and a bad person to begin with, the femme fatale is usually not great. They're not going to end up redeemed by the end of the story, which Faith really isn't.
Right.
Which I like about this movie. It's like a twist on that.
Right. The fact that this movie came out in 95, so shot in 94, that they were saying in 5 years later that 1999 was going to be nuts. Like this, like crazy, this kind of like tipping point almost was odd.
I just think back to films like Demolition Man did the same thing. When was Demolition Man? 94. They said the same thing about 99.
True.
That opens with 99, the Hollywood sign burning.
That's true. That's true.
I think that's just what people were expecting because there were so many, like the Rodney King stuff has just happened. And
that's where Cameron got the idea for this movie was after the indictment, not the indictment, after the ruling of the Rodney King verdict, after the verdict came down,
mm-hmm.
he got the idea and came up with the story.
I mean, that's pretty clear. Anybody who knows anything about like history, like modern history, like that's like, oh yeah, that's Rodney King right there.
Yeah. This has got old Cameron's fingerprints all over it. He's married to Kathryn Bigelow at the time, so. And this movie was produced by Lightstorm Entertainment, which is Cameron's production company. So it's got his fingerprints all over it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been surprised if he was gonna had an idea about directing it at some point.
But, it's possible.
Yeah. So it's definitely, Cameron heavy. But I had to step away. I think he was doing another movie during this time. Like he was shooting something else. Oh, I think he was doing. No, he wasn't. Was he doing? Terminator 2 was 91, right?
Yeah,
92,
91 and then came out in 92.
Yeah.
This might have been True Lies around the time of True Lies.
You might be right. True Lies came out in 94. But regardless.
Okay.
Yeah. So he might have been working on other stuff. So that's probably why maybe he didn't get behind the camera with this. Kathryn Bigelow is a great director too.
Titanic's 97, right?
He's probably preparing Titanic.
I would say pre-production maybe on something like that.
Maybe. Yeah, so I kind of one of my notes here back to genre. I have it kind of like film noir light. Like it's not.
It's definitely not super like film noir. Yeah,
right.
That really more comes into play toward the end, like you said, the last 45 minutes.
Correct. So I want to talk about the opening because I got a couple notes about the opening.
Okay.
So the opening scene, you kind of get the idea of it lays out exactly what the premise of the movie is: the technology, what you're seeing. Because you see Lenny's eyeball and you hear, I think it's Tig's voice. You ready? And he's like, yeah. And then he jacks in.
Yeah.
And he's watching this memory. So these guys basically rob a Chinese restaurant,
mm-hmm.
and then they get caught. They rob a Chinese restaurant. You're one guy. Cops surround him. He runs to the roof. He tries to make a jump. He doesn't make it. He falls and dies. And that's when he's like, I don't deal in blackjack. You find that out.
Yep.
So the opening sequence was actually 4 separate locations. They hid him in cuts, and because they had 4 different locations, they had to dub all the sound over. So none of the sound you hear in that first POV, experience, the memory, is nothing that was shot when they did it. It was all sound done in a studio, which I thought was interesting.
That is interesting.
Right. Now I'm not a POV guy. I'm not a first person shooter player. So I probably wouldn't like the experience of the squid decks, and it wouldn't be my thing.
Well, I don't know, because it's different than like just a first person shooter, because you're disconnected in those. You're only seeing the eyes, and this you're getting all the sensations.
Mm-hmm.
Now listen, I want you to know what we're talking about here, okay? This is not like TV, only better. This is life. It's a piece of somebody's life. It's pure and uncut. It's straight from the cerebral cortex. I mean, you're there, you're doing it, you're seeing it, you're hearing it, you're feeling it.
What kind of things exactly?
Exactly anything. It's whatever you want, whoever you want to be.
Okay. But all the POV action in the movie took a year to prep, plan, and rehearse. So everything you saw from the point of view of when they're jacking in
mm-hmm.
took over a year to get right.
That's interesting. That's surprising. It took that long.
Well, that's real time consuming.
I can see that being real time, especially when the murderer looks in the mirror when he's going to kill Iris, and there's no camera around him.
Right.
I thought that was impressive. I was like, oh, there's no camera there.
Yeah. Well, they might have
Clearly
had
that's
it
camera
hidden.
trickery. Yeah.
Yeah, they might have had it hidden. Well, they actually built the camera they used for the actual POV action.
Mm-hmm.
The camera they used was they had to create because cameras got to build everything. Because he built cameras for Titanic. He built I
That's
think
right.
he built cameras for Avatar too, right?
Yeah, he's a big technical guy. Yeah.
So they built this camera that it weighs 8 pounds, 35 millimeter camera. It fits in the palm of your hand, and it has these like interchangeable lenses and a remote follow focus and a video assist because you couldn't put a viewfinder on it.
Oh, absolutely.
So and it's mounted on this like, it's not a Steadicam, but it's a Steadicam like portable rig. So this small camera, it's 8 pounds, it's palm of your hand that they used to do the POV action shots.
That's really cool because I was wondering how to do it, especially when the guy jumps over the building. I was like, that's got to be his two hands.
Right.
That's got to be a mounted camera. But back in 1995, I was very surprised that they had a camera that still kept film quality film, but was smaller.
They needed a GoPro.
Basically,
yeah.
It was still really cool to see in 1995. I was impressed.
Yeah. And speaking of Steadicam, the cinematographer Matthew Leonetti, who actually he did well. Let me give you the two facts. So he estimated that 50 to 60% of the film was shot on a Steadicam. But also he had to use 4 different camera systems and lighting systems that some of them they had to create. He has a company, the Leonetti company.
Okay.
That they actually create and build just for this movie to use it. Because he had to do a bunch of stuff. He had to do stuff where he had to light like 7 blocks of Sunset Boulevard because they had action on both sides of the street. So they had to just light everything. But and with lighting in terms of when they had to do the POV stuff, they had to light from overhead because you don't know where because the camera's moving around.
You might see everything. Yeah.
You either have to hide the lights, which they did too, or you have to light from overhead. So lighting the whole thing must have been a hell of a time to do. It must have been like, I can imagine standing there going, how the frig I'm gonna light this.
That's right.
And it's an 80-day shoot, which is long to begin with. 77 of those were nights.
There's not a lot of day shots.
There isn't.
When Lenny wakes up after passing out the first night, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, and the flashback with the one flashback with Faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all I can remember.
The day shots, the flashbacks. Yep.
Oh, and the flashback with Mace as well.
Yep. When he wakes up, and then you're right. Yeah. Oof. That's tough. 77 nights.
That's right.
That's like a whole. You got to retrain your body after that to get back to like the daytime. So I'm curious because you came into this later. I had seen this when it came. I don't remember when I saw this.
Were you one of the 4 people that watched this when it came out?
I probably was. There was a time when I watched everything that came out. Just because that's what you did. That's what I did. At least I try to watch everything you can do. I'm curious because I asked you off mic if you liked this, and you said you did. What you talked about the murder mystery stuff. What other stuff what really jumped out at you?
Growing up, I've always liked movies with this kind of style, that kind of close future noir kind of style, that kind of not post-apocalyptic, but kind of dystopian, near future stuff. I always really enjoy, and even like farther future stuff like Blade Runner and stuff like that. I just like I always talk about how I love Star Trek, which is obviously the exact opposite of that. But that's why I think I'm also interested in this other, like, that's one way the future can go. Here's another, and it's pretty shitty. But there's something about the style and the look of all these films that I really like. The darkness lit by these neon lights and these street lights. They're dirty and they're gritty, and they have this strange style that's us, but not quite us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's that style and that feel that I really enjoy and I really go to in these different movies, especially. And like I said, I told you off camera, it's like it seems to be most of them were from the mid-90s.
Yeah.
It's like there was a very small period of time where it's like these are these movies, and then like I'd even say The Matrix is kind of like that. So I guess up to the late 90s.
There's more dystopian stuff now.
Yeah.
With the onset of YA books.
But it's a different type of dystopian. It's like beyond dystopian.
Right. What are you talking about? Mortal Engines isn't going to happen?
The Mortal Engines, Hunger Games, where it's like the stylized dystopia, where this is actually more like a real it's got a real lived in, like actual, like this could happen kind of feel to it.
In the future, cities take to the road. I'm like, why?
London's on a big tank now.
Okay.
So I really like the style. I mean, that was clearly when you talked about the movie and then I watched that trailer, that's what made me go,
Right.
I want to see this. I don't know how I've never seen this movie.
That was a
and
while
clearly
ago,
because
too.
it's super rapey and my parents would never have let me watch this movie.
Super rapey? Oh,
Yeah.
because the nudity?
All the nudity and
then he
the
rapes
storyline.
Iris, yeah.
So while I watched a lot of that when I was younger, my parents would never let me watch this. Clearly it was forgotten, so they probably never even watched it. And
I see how you I like how you brought up the title of the podcast. Nice job.
right. And yeah, I think because it was so forgotten, it just never reappeared as I got older. So I never really got a chance to watch it.
We had a heck of a time finding it
That's right.
to watch it. It's nowhere.
We had to get it from
We got it.
somewhere.
Let's just know we got it. That's all we need. People need to know. They don't need to know how.
But like the DV, I guess it was on VHS. It was on Laserdisc with like a 1 hour documentary about it.
which I'm sure has laser rot now.
Oh, absolutely. And then there's a DVD was made in 1999,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
And you can't find it for rent anywhere. So if you
which
can
I'm
find this
surprised.
movie, you should find it.
Visually, it's
Yeah.
great.
I mean, I thought the storyline was another thing that drew me in when you asked me what I thought about it. Other than the style, which I knew I was gonna like, I really like the characters. I like the the conventions. Like Lenny is a coward. Lenny is weak.
Yeah.
Lenny is not your strong hero character. That's Angela Bassett's Mace is your muscle. She's the hero character, and Lenny's he's the main character, but he's almost being dragged along.
He's kind of a loser.
He is.
Like I have here is like I got my note is Lenny is kind of a loser. Classic noir hero character flaw. Like he is. He's a real loser. And then of course, instantly, I think of the line in Venom, which I hate.
I was a loser too, Eddie.
On my planet, Eddie, I was like you. I was kind of a loser. It's just like, all right. Anyways, but yeah, no, he's a loser. It's
He's
like,
a loser.
Let it go.
He gets beat up real easy.
Yeah.
He needs Mace to protect him, which is, it's not wrong to need a woman to protect you. That's
the only
fine.
time
But
he
I think it's
ever-
interesting.
The only time he ever fights is he punches the security guard, the running back from the Rams.
Oh, later on in a wrestling.
Right. And he hits the chair on the woman who clearly was supposed to be in the Matrix movie.
Not like this. Not like this.
That's the only time he ever does anything. Yeah, he never has any kind of redemption of. I mean, I get it, man, like in terms of like standing up for himself.
I mean, he
It's a-
fights Max, but like he has no choice but to fight Max.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's life or death. That's like fight him or get thrown out a window or
Yeah.
shot in the head.
Which the reveal that Max played by Tom Sizemore, the reveal that Max is the bad guy is kind of, I saw that coming.
I mean, I have a couple of things that I love this movie. This is great. And I want to try to find on DVD, but there are a couple complaints and that was my big one. And
Right.
I put a note that maybe it's because, I don't know about you, because you've seen it. Tom Sizemore always plays the bad guy or a slimy guy. And although Max is always slimy, like that's,
It's not just that. It's also that it's his friend and he always is there to help him out. And
Right.
he's always there to he's always got an explanation for stuff. And you're just kind of like, it's a trope and you recognize it and you're like, he's
Right.
the bad guy.
I heard stuff.
What stuff?
You know, I heard stuff. Smoke, rumors. I've heard stuff. I've heard stuff about a death squad. A group of guys, cops, loyal to the hardline school. Guys have had too many years of City Hall and review boards and the goddamn media pissing down their necks, suspending cops right and left, tying their hands.
as soon as he's watching the Iris's, rape and murder.
Right.
And like his reaction, I'm like, I don't know. Look how upset Lenny was by this, and look how Max is on this.
Yeah.
And then Max is like, he's very calm throughout the whole thing. Like, oh, we need to do this and this, but it's told right from the start that Max doesn't get a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
It's
Max
like
can't know
I said,
everything.
it's a trope that you've seen before. So you're just
Right.
you're like, okay, I know.
You're
it.
just waiting for
Yep.
him to take off his
Yeah.
mask.
And even at the end, he's so quick at the end too. Like I don't get. Faith doesn't like him, doesn't like Lenny anymore, or never liked him, or is so anti Lenny. But at the end of the movie, she decides to save his life.
I don't think she really wanted Lenny to die. I think that was true.
Who knows?
I just don't think. I think she's very self-serving, not a good person, clearly,
Yeah.
and she never was. And Lenny just couldn't see past that,
Right.
which is true of a lot of people. When they fall for someone, they look past all their flaws and stuff like that. But Lenny and Faith did have something, and Lenny was really the only person in her life who really did care about her. So even if she can't love Lenny, She doesn't want to see him murdered. And she definitely doesn't love Max
Or Philo.
or Philo. I think Max is just a means to an end.
I don't
And
even
so is
know.
Philo.
You gotta follow me so much. Let's just have fun. It's like, come on. Yeah. And then Max turns on her so quick when he's like, you bitch, and he's like, and he's like trying to kill her.
Well, because obviously she tried to stop. What's Lenny going to do now that he has an opening? He's going
Right.
to try to stop Max.
Right. No, I hear you.
But yeah, I do think the end kind of falls apart a little bit. And it's all very convenient in the last 10 minutes.
Well, that was my point about the mystery isn't deep enough. It's just kind of like the premise of the movie is really good, but the mystery is kind of shoehorned in there towards the end. There is a mystery element as to like, why did they kill Iris? But it's kind of put on the back burner a lot for Lenny's obsession with Faith.
I think that's an issue.
Right. And I think there was a tough balance between that. And then all of a sudden the mystery kind of came forward towards the end.
Which the mystery is actually pretty cool. I don't mind the mystery. I like how the two stories do actually come together.
Mhm.
But like you said, since it's the last 45 minutes and you spend so much time focusing on Faith, if you took out some Faith stuff, stretched out that mystery, and let the audience kind of try to figure it out, it would have been a little better. Because the Jericho 1 stuff's actually, even though Max is obvious.
Well, the Jericho 1 stuff is, I don't get the motivation for Steckler to just shoot him. I don't get it. Like, in terms of like, I get if you're telling me like he's at the end of his rope, he jacks in too much, he's hopped up on something, whatever. You know, he's part of the fake death squad that Max makes up to try to throw them off the scent. But he just basically flat out shoots him.
I just get that they're all on their edge. Like that, this is just a society on the edge, and the cops are that on edge with the minority community. And then Jericho once starts saying, "I'm going to do this and this," and that just sets Jericho off. And like, fuck this, and he shoots him.
You mean sets Steckler off?
Steckler,
Oh,
yeah. I think it kills Jericho 1.
I think, but that's the problem is that that's the first time you see Steckler and what's the Engelman, the two cops.
Yeah, but they already pull him over for no reason, so it's kind of like
I get it. I just didn't. They just go, yeah, boom, boom. Like, whoa, what's going on here? It's quick. It's fine.
It is quick, but
that's fine.
Based on the setup of the world that they live in, I'm like, I can kind of see that.
Another effect of the Faith, the Lenny obsession with Faith.
Mm-hmm.
What else takes a hit is the relationship between Lenny and Mace in terms of setting up what happens at the end. Like clearly she loves him.
Yeah.
And he, for some reason, doesn't see it. And he has that say, have you ever loved somebody that doesn't return the favor? And she's like, yeah.
Yeah. So she said, I was like, come on, Lenny, fucking moron.
Right.
Have you ever been in love with someone who didn't return that love?
Yeah, Lenny. I have.
Didn't stop you from loving them, right? Or being able to understand them or forgive them?
I guess.
And there's not enough time kind of like spent there in the kind of like, I never sense Lenny really has feelings for her until the very end. You know what I mean? Until kind of like towards the end of the movie, there's never anything maybe in the first hour where you can show that. It's just kind of like, oh, you're my friend. He's using her. But like, you never get the sense that there was something there on his side.
I mean, you get a little bit of that. Like, I mean, he's wants to keep her friendship, even though he's like, is he trying to use her and just stay the limo? Or he's like, you don't mean that. You don't mean that. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, at the end, toward the end of that first night, he does lay on her lap. Like they have this very, obviously they're very comfortable with each other, kind of a relationship.
Right.
And he's kind of finds her as this kind of beacon of comfort, clearly. Cause like he goes into her lap and then he's at peace and he's calm and he finally goes to sleep. Mm-hmm. So I think there's something there that he doesn't realize, but it's there.
I just wanted more, I think.
More would have been nice. I would have liked more of a flashback. Like maybe
they just kind of show you the first time they meet.
Where she's a waitress.
Right.
And then she turns into a badass security expert, and it's not too much time has passed. We get to
True. Well, at some point in the movie too, though, there's a split in the narrative. Like there is a narrative about Lenny and solving the mystery and what's going on there, but then there's also this narrative of Mace and cops against the community, and she, you know, the cops are chasing her through the crowd. There's this like different, like there's almost like two different movies going on. At some point they split. And I get you want to solve because there's two issues here. There's the actual mystery of
there's the personal murder mystery
that
and
you're
the
trying
actual
to
societal one.
Because the cops that killed Jericho 1 are not obviously killing off all of Lenny's people that Lenny knows, because it's Max trying to just kind of like, it's Max trying to take advantage of the situation,
right,
to be with Faith and to get rid of Philo and to just kind of end up pinning on Lenny all those murders. But you still have the cops who murdered Jericho 1, who you need to solve that.
Well, that's the whole thing. Do you
yeah.
need to solve it, or do you just need to solve Faith's thing, which is kind of Lenny's dilemma, is like, does he care about Jericho 1 and what that means, or does he just care about Faith? And that's what upsets Mace, I think.
Right, but it's almost like there's one storyline. Jericho 1 is killed by these two cops, and a race war may ignite.
Mm-hmm.
And then it splits off because they can't stay interwoven, because it becomes, okay, well, now this happened. This person, Iris saw it. Max can take advantage of it. He's not even concerned with the cops. And then that splits off the narrative. And now you have these two cops out here who are chasing Lenny down. And at some point they have a firefight with Mace, and they drive the limo in, and like,
right.
But those are two. Now we have two different storylines going, and we have to complete them. You know what I mean? Like as I'm talking, I'm doing these hand motions.
You are doing these hand motions of them coming in and coming out together, driving down different lanes of the highway.
Right.
There is another, which now that you're talking about that, it actually reminds me of another kind of very similar futuristic noir kind of film or show, I guess. Altered Carbon does in a very similar way with the mystery, with the very personal. I can't remember the main character's name right now. Takeshi,
right?
Takeshi, who's trying to solve the murder of this rich guy, and how it actually veers into a very personal territory, and he's still got to solve both one murder and solve his own personal story as well. But I feel like that kind of comes together maybe a little better than
that.
This
also has more. That has more episodes.
A little bit more time to do it.
Right. So that absolutely. So that's got more time to do. You're talking about 2.5 hour movie. If they did Strange Days again, which we always talk about, I'm sure it's a 6 episode, 8 episode.
I think Strange Days would make a decent series. Actually, you could take. I like that the world that they develop is very interesting.
Yeah, I think I would like it. I think it would make sense more in the future, more futuristic in terms of the squid decks. Maybe not so rooted in the reality of 1999 or 2019. But rooted in the reality of 2040, 2050 kind of thing.
Go a little bit further than 5 years.
Yes.
I think that's something that we don't do as much, or that storytellers don't do as much now, as 5 years in the future this will happen. I think people are a little more realistic with 50 years in the future this will happen.
Ad Astra does a good job, the movie with Brad Pitt.
What year does that take place?
Shoot. But we colonized the moon. So it takes place, and we're on Mars. But I love
the technology is more realistic.
But I love the fact when they go to the moon in Ad Astra, and you see Hudson News there, like like the airport stuff, like you see, like, because that makes sense. That's what it would be like. Yeah. Now let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Jericho 1 is having a speech, and he talks, and one of the lines in the speech is he talks about rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Does that sound familiar to you? Is that from something?
I thought the same thing, but I don't know.
I should have looked it up.
Maybe they've taken other speeches.
Well, I'm wondering if it's
You've also heard him say that before, so maybe you just like that line, or
I've heard somebody say it before.
Well, you've seen this movie 3 or 4 times now?
No. Yes, I have, but I've heard that line before. Okay, USA Today has used it. I think it's been used before.
Okay.
A lot of people are using it. It sounded very, very familiar. Maybe it's just a common phrase now.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Now, did you also laugh when Victor blew his brains out and D'Onofrio screams and drags his partner's dead body across the ground?
No, I didn't laugh. But I was like, holy crap, he's nuts. Like when he had blood all over his face, he's just like, ah! All I kept thinking about was Full Metal Jacket. That's all I kept thinking about.
All the cops, get down, stop it, drop it. It's like, clearly he's not dropping. He's dragging his 200-pound friend across the ground.
He just fired into a group of New Year's celebrating New Year's people and like blowing people away. And I love how people are just still like celebrating. Like,
they scream for a second, and then clearly they all coming back together.
There's riots going on.
Real quick.
Cops are beating women in the middle of this thing. They're beating the crap out of Angela Basset. Cops shooting cops. Happy New Year! It's just like, pay attention.
The riot stops real quick, by the way.
It's true.
As soon as he goes, arrest these men for murder. And like Angela Bassett's brought back, Mace is like taken back up and like escorted out. Everyone's like, all right, I guess we can stop the riot now.
How'd you get the limo in the middle of all those people?
He's the police captain. He doesn't care.
It's nuts. Yeah, it was nuts. I was just like, holy cow, this is crazy. But I guess it works for the movie. even like Max when I love the fact that the knife's in his back.
God, he pulls it. I knew he was going to pull it out.
Lenny gets knifed, and he pulls the knife, and Lenny gets knifed, and they're fighting. Him and Max are fighting, and Max goes over the side of the balcony. They're like 40 stories up. The party's below, and Max is holding onto his tie because they always reference the ties in the movie.
Yeah.
And Lenny pulls the knife out of his back that Max had just stabbed and cuts the tie. I liked that, but like Max falls. Nobody minds. Boom! Everyone's just like, oh.
Well, there's one guy that looks up like, whoa. You're not gonna stop my 2000s party.
Maybe they're all jacking in at that point.
Maybe.
I mean, I wonder how many people had squids on while they were celebrating.
Well, that's the thing they don't really explain. It's like squids are supposed to be this black market item, but what's the name of the Japanese businessman that Mace is supposed to?
Oh, I don't remember who he kind of like kidnaps from. Not kidnaps, but like. Goes to the rave, yeah.
Convinces the party, go to his own place.
Which was an actual rave. They actually had a rave set up. They promoted it, and then they just started shooting there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because I was like, holy cow, that's a lot of extras.
They got a lot of extras.
Yeah.
You can tell they spent a lot of money on this movie.
Well, but only 40 million, 42 million, right?
Yeah, but they don't have like a lot of huge stars.
I don't know why I'm asking. The facts are right here. 42 million. Well, this is also 95, man. This is you don't have bloated budgets right now.
Yeah.
You're not talking like, and you're not getting like a $200 million budget for this movie.
Well, it's also, I think what helps the movie that places it in the real world is they don't have this budget that gives them like futuristic stuff.
True.
It's like they have to place it in this real world.
Yeah.
Which I do like the designs of all the outfits and stuff. That's very 90s inspired future stuff. Like the blazers that are way too long, almost like trench coats. I noticed like, one of the notes I have is Ralph Fiennes looks a lot like the 1990s Doctor Who, which also has a New Year's Eve kind of 2000 special.
That's true.
I was like, he's dressed pretty much exactly like the 1990s Doctor Who movie.
That's true. Did you notice the cartridges that they used were Sony mini discs?
I did.
And the Squid decks were Sony mini disc players that they retrofitted. Yeah.
I was like, I could have done without that.
But it made them. But I like the idea that the media
it grounds it,
right? Well, I'll tell you what. If this is now, those are implants. Those aren't.
Oh, absolutely. Those are USB implants.
That's Johnny Mnemonic style implants when he's like jack in. Yeah, that's what that movie would be going
absolutely.
to. Yeah.
Although I do like the design of the squids.
Oh yeah.
But my own thing with the Japanese guy is he's like, it's supposed to be a black market item, but he's like, have you ever jacked in before? You got squid, and he brings out this little tiny compact squid.
He's a millionaire. Of course, he's got that stuff.
But now he's got his own designed version, like his own boutique version.
He probably brought it from overseas.
So is it legal overseas? That's what I was a little confused about with the legality of the squids.
Well, I think
the cops don't all have squids on while they're.
No, it was. They said it was used. FBI was using
okay, so not like local police.
Right.
Okay.
Right. No, yeah. So, but I mean, it's like one of those, like, e-cigarette kind of things, or vaping or something. You know what I mean? Maybe it's legal, or weed, where weed's not legal. But everyone does it, and the kind of thing.
Maybe there are countries where it is.
Not that I do. Not that I smoke weed. I'm just saying.
Put that blunt out, Field. We were doing the podcast.
I can't do a cast unless I'm high. I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you what I hated. There's one thing I hated in this movie. As I'm assuming we're wrapping up here. Are we wrapping up?
I'm checking over my notes, but yeah, I think we can go over let's go over what we didn't like.
I mean, go ahead, because I'm going to save my.
You want to save yours for last?
Yeah.
Another thing I didn't like, which was a stupid thing, was Lenny's porn stash in his flashbacks. Cop Lenny has this awful porn stash.
I'm glad you bring up Cop Lenny.
Okay.
Like, I could not see in his character him ever being a cop. Even when Max is telling him, let's work the case. You were Vice. Let's work it. I didn't get that sense that he was ever a cop. Ever. I don't know.
I mean, clearly he wasn't a very good cop.
Apparently. But go ahead. You were saying his porn stash.
That's all. It's just it's just like, oh my, like as soon as he looked in the mirror in his own squid memory, I was like, shave this shit off. that mustache was never cool and never will be cool. But yeah, I agree. The whole cop thing is like, and the fact that he's so bad at fighting and like he gets his gun, it doesn't even have bullets in it.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like he could not have been a good cop,
but he wasn't. He shows no kind of. His training kicked in and shows no kind of like cop movement. I don't know. I don't
Working
know
the
if
case,
that's a
he doesn't
word.
really work the case. He stumbles. This is the clues that are given to him, basically.
Yeah, I didn't get that. He's a slick talker, so I got the slick talker aspect.
Oh, absolutely.
I would even be okay with he was like an ex-lawyer who got disbarred.
I can see that.
Okay, but like nothing. He has no training. There's like no training there.
And like the captain, why did the captain fire him? Exactly.
They never
don't
talk
really tell
about.
you.
They never say it.
Was it for selling? Was it for using?
Who knows? Maybe. I guess. I don't know.
Was it for being a bad cop?
Who didn't go pass his training?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, I like Lenny as a character.
Sure.
I think he's really interesting. He's a very interesting protagonist because he's not strong or powerful, and he does have all these flaws.
Mm-hmm. It's almost as if they added the stuff where Lenny was an ex-cop just to explain how he's friends with Max, how he knows people. The commissioner knows him, or the police chief knows him,
And how like Mace,
how he has
relationship with Mace.
right. It's almost as if they did that. They just kind of tossed it in there just to kind of give him the backstory of, well, of course he knows all these people, you know, and,
Right.
and they never really gave much thought to, okay, well, shouldn't he know how to do this? Should he know how to handle a firearm?
As if someone had read the script and that was like their note. Like,
Right.
Lenny needs a stronger backstory.
Shouldn't he know how to hand-to-hand combat? Like, should he know how to?
He knows how to throw a chair at a lady. I mean, I do like the fight with Max at the end because it is really like just like
Sure.
survival kind of a fight. And I cringed. I cringed when he took the knife out of his back, but when he takes Max's arm and starts moving it back and forth across the glass table to saw it off, I was like, oh.
Yeah. With Die Hard, I mean, he's a cop, so he's fighting cop, but like Raiders of the Lost Ark, with Indiana Jones,
Mm-hmm.
he's an archaeologist. He's not a trained fighter.
Well, later on, we learned that he was in World War One.
Okay, yeah, everyone was in
stuff like
World
that.
War One,
Well,
but
yeah.
it's not like when you went into World War One, or when you weren't trained on hand. You know, you were trained standard stuff, but you weren't like it wasn't beat into you where like that was your second nature.
Yeah. Well, he was also a spy. We also learned at a young
Well, he's awesome, but anyway, just the fact that he's like you can still relate to him, an everyday man kind of thing. The way he
Right.
fights,
because he gets the shit beat out of him.
Right.
Like all the
Lenny
time.
has that same everyday man kind of idea,
Yes.
except they added that, oh, he was an ex-cop. Don't do that. Lawyer. Just
Yeah.
like something like that. I think that's what we're saying.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my note.
Tell me your note.
I wanted somebody to shoot that friggin' mime. So that mime stats, they had the mime like 2 or 3 times. And what's worse about that stupid mime is he actually has a stupid credit. He has a credit at the end, and his name is Zoot.
Zoot
Yeah, I'm the credits are rolling, and I'm just like mime Zoot. I'm like, what? Ugh, that guy was just shoot that.
Zoot
mime.
had a bigger part in the actual film. If you actually watch it, he's the one that convinces the police chief to finally watch the the squid tape.
I would
on mime
I would
fun.
have no negative things to say about Strange Days if Angela Basset just pulled a gun out and shot the mime at the end, and then she kisses like kiss me, Lenny, and the mime's like in the back dying, and everybody would be like, yeah, baby, mom's dead. Screw you, Zoot.
Angela Bassett was jacked back then.
She's always jacked.
Yeah, she's in really good shape. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I believe that she was fighting. I like that.
Well, you have to too. I mean, I'm sure she probably trained for the movie
Oh, yeah,
because
she's
she's supposed to be
security
security.
officer,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
But as soon as she came in and beat up the guys beating up Lenny, I was like, oh, snap. Like she really liked it. Like
Yeah.
messed them up. I thought that was really cool.
So I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad
I
that
thought it was
we
really
actually did a
good.
movie that you hadn't seen and you ended up liking, because I always don't like saying like, hey, you should see this movie, but then you don't like it.
There aren't that many that I don't like, but there aren't many that we've watched that I haven't seen where I'm like, wow, I really like this movie. Why haven't I seen? This is one of the very first ones that, I'm looking at it almost like our viewers would, like, wow, thanks to Forgotten Cinema, I've seen this movie. Like, thanks
Hey.
Forgotten Cinema, I've seen Strange Days, and now I want to own Strange Days. I really like it. And it's really too bad it didn't make any money back then.
I
Which
think-
I had read that none of the movies that were actually released that week made a lot of money. It was a surprisingly slow
It's
week, I was
It's
told.
October. Well, here's the thing. It's not. We talked about the dead months. I think
Right.
we're just coming. We're going to be coming up towards a big movie. We're recording this the week before Frozen 2 comes out. But
Right.
like from
The holidays are about to begin
right
for us.
we have had no big weeks the last 6-8 weeks. We've had movies come out that people want to see, but no big weeks.
We've had decent weeks. Yeah, we haven't had any huge weeks.
Right. So,
Joker
I mean,
was probably the last one.
what's that?
Joker would probably have been the last one
Yeah.
for us.
True. But that's where we got here.
Do you think this would have done better closer to New Year's? Like,
No.
if you're advertising it, because it's advertised big New Year's in the trailer.
I
that
think
you
this
showed
movie.
me.
I think this part of the reason why this movie's forgotten is that the tough sell. It's a really tough. It's tough to sell cyberpunk sci-fi, a movie like this, into a mainstream audience. You
That's
can't.
true.
You can't put this in the summer.
mean, Johnny Mnemonic is a cult classic, but like that didn't do well either,
That
right?
didn't do well either, but it's a great premise.
Right.
That's the thing. That has a great premise. This is a nice premise, but it's really tough to sell to a mainstream audience.
You need a big name character. Like something like Demolition Man also wouldn't have done well if it didn't have Sylvester Stallone.
This is a better movie on streaming. This is a better movie like, on Hulu or on Netflix, or a better series on Prime. It needs that.
I'm surprised no one has streaming, because it's not like it would cost much to get the rights. And the distributor, it's like, what are they doing? Sitting on it? You might as well just release it and try to get some money out of it.
Maybe just there's no call for it. I don't know.
Kathryn Bigelow directed. It's got James Cameron's name.
Maybe it had a little bit of a kind of, when she won for Hurt Locker, maybe it came out a little bit for people, but no, it's a tough. I don't think part of the reason it was forgotten is because it's a tough sell, and it's Ralph Fiennes. We like Ralph Fiennes.
I think everyone.
Ralph Fiennes bringing people to the theater? Probably not.
I think everyone does a really good job in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's a shame. And clearly, there's a lot of work put into the cinematography, the direction, the writing. Like, all that's very well done. And it's like, it's a shame that, we talk about it all the time. It's really tough to make movies. So even when we don't like them, it's like, you got to respect the effort that was put into them. Yeah. And in this one, more so, like, it's really like, I like it so much. It's really too bad no one liked it.
One last note about the filmmaking. James Cameron actually did a lot of the editing, edited basically most of the movie, but he couldn't take a credit because he's not in the union. He didn't get into the union until later on, I think, for Titanic or Avatar or something like that. He wasn't in the union at the time.
That's interesting, because I know he's famously edited his Piranha 2 movie.
Oh yeah,
because when that was his first directing gig, he got fired after the movie was filmed, and it was brought to another editor to fix the movie. He broke into the studio and would edit Piranha 2, edit the film at night. And they ended up using his edit because they didn't know any better. He would just secretly edit the movie.
Nice. Good for him. So it's got a lot of good, strong people behind it.
Yes.
And so, but it's forgotten because I think it's a tough sell. Like I said before, countless times.
Yes. If you can find it, give it a watch. That's the problem with this one, I think, is we can't really recommend that you go. We can recommend you go get it, but it's going to be tough for you guys to find.
Right. Absolutely.
Hopefully, maybe they put out a Blu-ray.
Hopefully, some point.
I mean, technically it's the 20th anniversary of the date the movie takes place. But next year will be the 25th anniversary of the movie, and it's got the big names. Hopefully, maybe one day let's release it in like a James Cameron or Kathryn Bigelow collection. But it's worth checking out if you can find it. If you ever see it on TV or something, give it a watch. It's a really good 90s film.
Nice. So, to keep along the theme of movies that you have not seen that I've suggested, next week we're going to be doing a movie that you've never seen, right? Sing Street.
I've never seen Sing Street.
So we're going to do the movie Sing Street, directed by John Carney. Sing Street is John Carney is also responsible for Once, which I know you've seen.
Yes.
And actually Begin Again. I don't know if you've seen Begin Again.
Yeah.
You should. Yeah. So those are two movies I enjoyed, and I really like Sing Street. So, and I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater, so this will be good because I've always wanted to kind of catch it again. So join us next week when we will do Sing Street. If you can find it anywhere to watch, please feel free.
So that's like a musical, right? I mean,
it is. It's
that's our
like
first,
Once.
That's our first musical.
I thought we did one.
Did we do?
No, we did not. You're right, because we had this conversation about have we done one yet, and then we're like, wait a minute, we're doing one coming up.
Yep.
And now you know what our conversations are like behind the scenes. If you like what you hear, please feel free to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to the podcast.
Agreed.
You can always catch us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com, where we post all of our episodes there, and it links out to the various places where you can listen to it. You can also reach us. You can reach us through the site on the contact form if you have any suggestions, but you can also reach us at ForgottenCinemaPod@gmail.com. And we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You comment and say, hey, why don't you guys do this? We'll put you down. We'll write you down. We always love doing viewer suggestions. And we always love talking to our audience members.
This is true as well.
All right. So yeah. Join us next week, Sing Street. And that's it. That's all I got.
All right.
And watch Strange Days. Find it somewhere and watch it.
That's right.
Yeah, we hope you had a good new year. We will see you. Well, I was going to say we'll see you next year, but
this is next year.
This is next year. So I guess we'll see you next week.
All right.
I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.